Welcome to Little Sprout, a podcast for moms by moms.
We're your hosts, Sarah and Mel, here to talk all things motherhood
and keeping it real.
So here we go. Let's do this. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Little Sprout.
Welcome. We have a special guest with us.
Yeah, happy 2026. Here we are. We're so excited to have today Emily Rosen. I'm going to let her introduce herself because she has a lot.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Melissa and Sarah. I'm really excited to chat with you since we met a few months ago. So I'm Emily Rosen. I'm also in LA. I'm a mom to 2 kids. My son Max is 6 and my daughter Eva is 15 months. My career has been mostly in advertising as a copywriter and creative director, working on all types of brands. Something that really unlocked what I really wanted to do with it. In 2016, I got to work with the Obama White House on a women's summit, naming and coming up with a whole film to promote it and co-directing that film. And I really loved working on something that was purpose-driven, especially for women. And since then, I've tried to focus my work in that respect as much as possible. And in 2021, I went freelance and have worked with Frida Mom and Frida Baby and Chief and like a lot of other brands that work with women and families. But in 2025, I also published my first children's book called Waiting for Max, a NICU Story. This is the book. Yeah, and I know you both have copies of it since you came to my story time at Zibby's bookshop, which was amazing. So my book is inspired by my experience with my son Max, who I said is now 6, but when he was born, he arrived 6 weeks early and as a result spent 16 days in the NICU. And so I wrote a children's book kind of inspired by that experience of waiting for him to come home and how difficult that was. One of the things I could really do, and I know, Sarah, you're a NICU mom, and Melissa, you work in the NICU, so you're I don't have to explain that to you, but as anyone in our worlds will say, it's so hard to wait for your baby to come home. And one of the things I did to help with that was read books to Max every day to really connect with him. But it was hard to find stories that reflected what we were going through. And so a couple years later, I wrote a children's book about it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I don't think I know you. It's definitely a unique experience for sure. And I just have to say before talking about more your book, but Jordan always goes for the Waiting for Max when she picks out her books.
I know.
Yeah.
The illustrations, the story.
Yeah, she loves it.
Eva also loves her copy of Waiting for Max. And it's just even if you aren't a family in the NICU, this book tells about a different type of experience. And I think that's so important when we're educating our children, which a lot of the times in early childhood is through reading, right? Everyone's experience is different. And what an insane experience. I mean, Sarah's described her experience on the podcast before, but you're already going through postpartum and a traumatic thing like pregnancy and giving birth, and to then have to go through another layer like the NICU is just insane.
Yeah. It's not fun to do. And I think, so when did you think of the idea to start to write a book about your experience?
Yeah. So while I was in the NICU, as I was, reading books to Max, and it felt like there was a need for something like this, and 1 in 10 babies go to the NICU, and so it's incredibly prominent, and it touches so many of us, whether it's your own kid or your best friend's kid or your niece or nephew, like we're all kind of connected to it in some way. And I always wanted to be a children's book author. I've been a writer my whole life, as I mentioned in my career in copywriting, but also as a kid writing for the school newspaper and writing plays with my friends. But being a children's book author was always something I thought I'd want to do one day. And in the midst of COVID, I really needed a creative outlet and found an online class that I could kind of do in my own time and learn about what goes into making a picture book, all the different elements you need to think about. And in thinking about ideas of what I wanted to write about in my book, the idea of a NICU baby really kind of kept coming back and feeling like something I wanted to and needed to write about.
Yeah.
And so at first, Max is my first kid, so I wrote about it more from my experience. So it was from the NICU baby's perspective, but him wanting to get out of the NICU and go home to his family. But then in kind of talking about it with different people in the NICU space and the book publishing space, I kind of realized this book was really for the other kids in the NICU baby's life. Of course, families who have NICU babies are enjoying it and it's impactful to them and reading to their families, their babies. But those babies that also have older siblings, older cousins, next door neighbor kids that are waiting for this baby to come home and don't really understand why they're not coming home right away.
Yeah.
A lot of the other babies they know in their life.
Yeah.
So this book is really for them. And so it basically channels the feelings I had as a mom of just desperately wanting Max to come home, but from the perspective of this older sister, Louise, who is so excited to meet her little brother Max, but has to wait. And her parents kind of bring home pictures and videos from the NICU. And she learns about elements like the feeding tube, the
it's
monitors,
so creative, all the different things that you think of.
Yeah. And so she kind of learns about those. And as she does, she's like, well, waiting is too hard. I need to think of my own ways to bring him home. And so she comes up with these drawings. For example, the isolette becomes a spaceship and the monitors beeping is like a countdown to blast off and he'll fly home.
That's Jordan's favorite part.
Yeah, that's my favorite part too. So I'm glad she likes it. Yeah, so it's basically just helps explain the basic elements in the NICU. Obviously, every story is different. Ours is just one. And I didn't want to scare kids either with too many details, but to get an understanding of generally what's happening, why they're there, and have a space to kind of ask questions as well as process their big feelings about it. That's the whole point of this book.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's excellent. Like I said, the different creative ideas you thought of, the feeding tube and all the pictures she creates. And it's really, I mean, for someone who doesn't know anything about the hospital or the NICU, it's just a great introduction to kind of teach people all about it.
Yeah.
I would say.
Thank you.
The illustrations are amazing.
Yeah, Esther Diana, the illustrator, did an amazing job. She's also a mom, and it was really important to me that there was the right balance between being medically accurate but also warm and inviting. Kids wouldn't be scared by seeing the machines and monitors, and I think she struck the perfect balance. She's incredibly talented, so I'm very thankful that the Collective Book Studio, my publisher, found her and paired us up. And I think I'm hearing more and more what you're saying, that there are, obviously it's for NICU families, but there's so much in it that can resonate with any experience. My friend who also has a daughter named Jordan was saying they use it when she has to wait for something. And she's like, oh, you're waiting like Louise was waiting for her brother. And or when the grandparents take care of her when they go out of town, it's Louise's grandparents took care of her. And so there's a lot of universal things. And obviously waiting is a huge theme and something every kid, every person deals with. And so as well as the theme of just using creativity to kind of process and cope with a tough situation. So even if the kid's not going through a NICU stay or a connection to a NICU baby, there's still tools taught in the book of how to cope and process what's going on, whatever that may be.
Which is so incredible, right? Because a complex cognitive process like patience. How do you teach a toddler about patience, let alone your own sibling that you're waiting for. And I think your book, just as you just highlighted, right? Like it's not only a story about a NICU family, but it's a story about patience and tools you can use to help your child wait. And what an important life skill. You started to talk about just now kind of the impact that it had on you emotionally. Can you, if you don't mind, would you mind reflecting on that,
Sure.
like the emotional toll it had on you as a mom having your first baby in the NICU?
Yeah, it was a huge emotional toll, as I'm sure Sarah agrees with, and all the patients you work with, Melissa, too. Just kind of, wasn't the plan, especially as a first time parent. You kind of expect things to go a certain way. You know, I had written out like, not a very detailed, but general like birth thought of what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. And none of that happened. You know, the nursery wasn't ready yet. We didn't have a name picked out yet. Like, you know, my water broke unexpectedly one morning and we went to the hospital and they said, you're not leaving until you have this baby. And 20 hours later, he arrived. I was 34 weeks. And, you know, that whole labor process in and of itself was traumatic and terrifying. You know, his heart rate dropped a few times. That was really scary. And
So scary.
almost had to have an emergency C-section, but his heart rate ended up coming back up just in time for maybe 30 seconds and then rushed off to the NICU and my husband followed. And again, that's not what you expect. And the waiting kind of began there. I was waiting to like spend time with my new baby. They had to stitch me up and I had to recover and he had to go be, you know, taken care of right away in the NICU. And then from there, it was just waiting for 16 days and just every day desperately wanting him to come home. And, you know, obviously you can't control anything for him. It was mostly about learning to eat and grow. But he did have an episode of SVT come up where his heart rate accelerated dramatically and they had to observe that for
scary.
5 extra days. And yeah, that was really terrifying. And so it was just like tears every day, multiple times a day. Like we're lucky in that we live, you know, really close to, he was born at Providence St. John's in Santa Monica. And we live not too far. So we were able to kind of go back and forth throughout the day for feeding times and get out, you know, to have lunch or me take a nap. But it was just, you know, incredibly taxing starting your journey of motherhood that way. And you know, when he was there and I felt like really disconnected, you know, when we were home and he was there, one thing we did was I tearily asked Dustin, my husband, we stopped at CVS to use the photo kiosks to print out photos from our phone so we could have them at home.
Oh, that's a great idea.
That's such a good idea.
Yeah, it really helped. I was like, you know what? Everyone would have photos of their newborn up in their house. Like, so what if he has wires and a feeding tube? And that's actually something reflected in the book. It was really important to me, even though these days most people look at photos only on their phones. I really wanted the big sister to have like some of the photos she could hold in her hand or
physical
put on the refrigerator.
Copies of it.
Because I think it makes a huge difference. And so that you'll see that in the book as well. But yeah, when he finally came home after 16 days, obviously it was incredibly joyous. But like what I didn't realize is like how much the NICU stay would stay with me afterward. And like the emotional toll continued. And I developed postpartum anxiety, I think in part to that kind of experience and started therapy and
I mean,
I got the camera.
Sorry, we have a sitter here and neither of our daughters want to hang out with her.
Okay.
Can you hear us, Emily?
Yeah, but it's doing, then that's fine.
So I think you started to touch on something right then and there, just like the emotional impact of postpartum delivering on every mom's mental health, which I feel like before I had a baby, I had no idea kind of like the toll it could take, and that every mom you speak to kind of processes and goes through, honestly, like some type of trauma in relation to their birth. So you hit on therapy. Was there anything else that kind of helped you through your specific NICU experience?
While I was there, speaking to a couple other friends who had NICU babies really helped me a ton. They had, their babies were like just maybe a year or so older than Max. So they had been through it pretty recently, but had come out the other side and everyone was okay. And like just knowing they had felt the feelings I had felt and like went through everything I had been going through, like was really comforting because it can feel very isolating, even though you can like see around you other families going through it in the hospital too. It's still just, you just feel like a bit lonely and like because you were expecting to like celebrate this birth and like introduce your baby to your family and friends. And instead you're like in the hospital for whether it's 2 days or months and months. And it's hard. So like talking to people who had been through it was definitely a lifesaver for me. And I know that through this experience of putting the book out in the world, I've learned about a lot of great organizations that offer that kind of support of peer mentors who are parents who are formerly in the NICU as well. And so if you don't actually know anyone in your own life, like you can reach out to one of these organizations and find someone to talk to. Like a really great one is Today is a Good Day or Hand to Hold or the Grams Foundation. They all like really offer great support.
Support for
Project
that.
NICU as well. And so just finding resources, I'm like the hospital, I can usually help with that type of thing as well.
And I think that I know at St. John's, since you've left, we've implemented a parent support group, and it's once a month, and it's hosted by the regional center, which not even all NICU babies need the regional center, which is California's state system to kind of help with early intervention. And we have just gotten such good feedback about having a parent support group, right? Because I mean, postpartum in general, but then adding the complexity of the NICU it's just, you need someone to bounce your feelings off of.
Yeah. And I think also like for me, I didn't even process like what was going on until like months later. Like it was go, 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 survive. Like, she was also like, it was like 2 weeks in the NICU, and then you bring her home and then you're getting adjusted to that. And they're newborn, so you're in the newborn bubble. And then it's like, wait, what happened? I had just had a baby.
I completely agree. Yeah, like you're in it and you feel all these crazy feelings and stress, but you don't think like about how that's going to affect you and continue to affect you after you're out of there. And yeah, I didn't really think of it as a trauma, but I realized later on it is a trauma. Both like
100%.
preterm birth and the NICU stay are both very traumatic.
Yeah.
And my therapist actually is a NICU mom, and that really helped as well. I think just like speaking to other people that have gone through it is a huge help to anyone. And that's my hope for the book, is like sharing a bit of our story and using it as a tool, like for the kids, but also I think for the parents, it can bring comfort, or grandparents, that like seeing themselves reflected in some way in the family in this book. There wasn't, there's a few, but not enough given how like prominent it is. And so giving this as a resource to all members of the family as well is my hope.
And so you mentioned therapy. You mentioned kind of using this book to help process your own emotions through a complex NICU stay. What is your one piece of advice to like a NICU family? And if you could touch upon like the mom, but siblings, your partner, right? Because I mean, I remember just how the dynamic between my husband and I changed with a non-complicated birth, right? But then adding the layer of medical complexity and stress of having a NICU baby, like what helps you process it? And what's one piece of advice you can offer to other families?
I think just knowing you're not alone in it, even though it feels that way, like I said, like that so many people have walked this path before and so many will walk it again. And like leaning on each other, I think my husband and I did a good job of that more so me leaning on him because, he obviously is a parent going through it as well, but I had the added recovering physically and hormonally and emotionally from giving birth to a child and pumping and, all the things I had to be doing as well. And I think also just giving yourself the space to not be there every second. Like you feel like you have to be and you should be. But the truth is a lot of the time they're laying there sleeping most of the time, and you need to eat and you shouldn't eat hospital food for every meal. Like get out and I remember we would go to this deli nearby that we loved and get pancakes because my favorite food is pancakes. And just like a simple thing like that to give yourself a break from it all, I think is really important to feel the sun or just fresh air.
Yes, fresh air.
Instead of the fluorescent lights at the hospital, 24 hours.
Yeah.
Is very important as well.
No, I think that's so important. I mean, you have to remember, and I think that was something that I had one small advantage from working in the NICU as a nurse. I knew my baby someone was watching her all the time. So I felt comfortable, okay, I'm going to go to the feeding, the noon feed, and then come back home and then go to the 6 o'clock feed. Someone will be there watching her. But it's very important to take care of yourself because if you don't take care of yourself first, once your baby comes home, you're okay. Once your baby comes home, no one's going to take care of you.
Yeah, I think that's a great point too, is the people who work in the NICU, like yourselves, are trained experts. For me, they know way more about childcare than I do. So trusting them, and they were amazing. Honestly, coming home when you begin parenthood with a NICU stay, I mean, probably different for you since you're a nurse, but for me, who's nowhere near a medical professional, it was oh wait, now it's on us to do everything for this baby. How do we do this? And where you're getting expert care in every little thing for the first, in our case, 16 days. So yeah, I mean, the people who work in the NICU are truly amazing. We actually went in 2024 to the NICU reunion at St. John's. And it was actually the day after my daughter Eva was born at St. John's.
Oh my gosh.
So
you
Max
went the
came.
Day. Yeah.
Well,
you had a newborn.
I didn't carry Eva. We worked with a surrogate after a very long fertility journey, which I can share.
As another journey.
It happened to be the day before the NICU reunion was the day she was born. So Max came and met his sister, and then I took him down.
So beautiful.
And we saw the nurse who has since retired, but the first nurse that took care of him when he went to the
that's
NICU.
Amazing.
And she looked at me and was like, "That's Max." She remembered us 6 years later. It probably had helped thousands upon thousands of babies over her career. And that just shows you how special the people who work in the NICU are.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's amazing.
And I think I feel that, right? Because I work in the NICU and I love those babies. So, of course I'm there for a different reason. I'm not their mom, but I'm there to help them get back to their moms. And I think that's so important to just realize as a NICU parent in general is taking that time for yourself and kind of trusting the experts, which is literally so much harder, so much easier said than done, right?
Totally.
You can keep saying it. But once you kind of get in the rhythm of a complex thing like the NICU, I think it is a bit easier to kind of realize that your baby's going to be okay. And you can take an hour or two for yourself. But it's so hard to get to that point mentally.
Definitely.
Okay, so you mentioned that your daughter Eva was born via surrogate. Are you open to talking about that experience? And I feel like that's another book in the making. What's going on there?
Yes, all of the above. So Eva was born, as I mentioned, in 2024. So she's 15 months now. And we had her after a 3-year fertility journey of trying to have a second child. Multiple rounds of IVF, failed transfers in moving to surrogacy, a few tries with our surrogate before it worked. I have endometriosis. I learned a bit about my uterus that potentially caused the early birth and like for Max, and then subsequently the difficulty getting pregnant again. But we have the baby we were supposed to have after that long process. That was two hardest things I've done in my life are the NICU stay and the fertility journey. Yeah. Everything in relation to kids and having kids is way harder than anything else I've experienced in my life.
And why doesn't anyone talk about it? Like, why aren't there storybooks about it?
Yeah.
It's just like,
yeah,
it was not easy for me to get pregnant with Aviva. And it's just, I feel like now with social media, it's better, but it's still such like a short snapshot, right? On social media, you're getting like little bits. You're getting 30-second reels or TikToks about someone's journey. And that's why I'm excited to hear about your thoughts and vision for a possible book, because I think it's just so needed.
Yeah, so I agree. When I was trying to explain to Max that he had a sister coming that was growing in our surrogate's belly, I couldn't again find like
the words for it
to help explain it. So I basically wrote a very quick explanation in Google Docs and put pictures in and had a picture of our surrogate with her belly, and then he got to meet her and her son, and so I really want him to understand what was going on. And he had been asking for a sibling for a while. So he was very thrilled and did not care where she was growing as long as she was coming, which is amazing. Kids are great, I'm getting a sibling. Awesome. That's cool that it's growing in another woman's belly. But so my next book will be Waiting for Eva and will be a surrogacy fertility story. And my plan is to basically create a whole Waiting for blank series of all the different ways babies come home to their family. So this will be a surrogacy story. Maybe I'll do a more IVF focused story, adoption story. We have a niece who's adopted. I just want to really cover all these beautiful ways that we have babies come into our lives, so that kids who are older siblings of those babies, older cousins, or just anyone in that baby's life can,
who is adopted,
a friend who understands what happened. And because I think as a parent, I've always believed in telling the truth to my kids and empowering them with knowledge. Obviously there's a kid-friendly version of everything. You don't want to share every single detail, but for them to have enough knowledge to understand what's happening and feel empowered and have space to ask questions and validate whatever feelings they're having about it. And so my hope is to create a series that kind of helps with that in terms of welcoming new babies.
I love that.
So that's what I'll be working on in 2026 is writing this next book.
You're so inspiring.
Yeah, that's amazing.
You're so inspiring, just using these experiences for the greater good. I don't know, in Judaism we say what a mensch. It's really, I'm so grateful for you and your creative, using your experiences as a creative outlet to help others. What a cool.
Thank you. Yeah,
it's situation.
Thank you. That's why I wrote this, is to help other families who've been through similar experiences. And that's my goal with the story, is not only that the story helps them, but I've been donating books to hospitals across the country, and I'll be donating proceeds to hospitals and charities. And, with the upcoming books, probably donating to more fertility focused organizations, and just really helping pay it forward for other families going through it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. Is this book published? Is it coming out soon, or we have to wait a little bit for it?
Oh, I'm going to start writing.
Okay.
I've been very focused on Waiting for Max out and the marketing and, the donations. And so now it's been out a few months now. Now I'll have some time to start working on the next one.
That's great. And I love how you're giving them or donating them to hospitals and parents in the NICU. That must feel so great to be able to go into different NICUs around, because I saw it on social media. I feel like you're all over the country, right? Visiting hospitals.
I donated a case to St. John's. I donated one to Cedars. We're getting ones to UCLA and CHLA, but beyond LA, I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, and we did the Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital there, saw the book and loved it so much that they wanted to be able to give it to all the NICU families that have siblings at home.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
Raise money that they could buy books, and I donated a few as well. And then, so I've been to Cleveland. I've been to visit a hospital in Arizona, where I donated a book, and I think they'll be buying some more through some funds as well. I have like bulk pricing for hospitals and charities that are interested in distributing more books.
Incredible.
And and then I've been just calling hospitals all over the country. I've donated to over 30 hospitals so far across 19 states, and my goal is to hit all 50 states. So I'll keep working on that.
I mean, like Melissa,
Good for you.
like it's so inspiring. Like like Melissa said, just like for something that just happened to you in life, and then just to create all of this. And like I said, just like you must feel so amazing to go back into these hospitals and just talk to families and tell them your experience, and then just to donate the books. And it's just like hearing about it just makes me emotional.
Thank you. That means a lot, especially given, you as moms and a NICU parent and working in the NICU, like you know the space better than most. So that means a lot. Thank you.
Of course. Where can our listeners find you, Emily?
So they can find me on Instagram at Emily Rosen Creative, or on TikTok at emily.rosen.creative. My website's emilyrosencreative.com, and the book is available everywhere books are sold. It's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your local bookstores. It's in a lot of libraries across the country, starting to try to get in some hospital gift shops. So anywhere you like to buy books, you can find it. And I'd love to hear from any NICU parents or anyone that's listening that, is inspired or wants to learn more about the story. Feel free to reach out.
Yeah, thank you. And everyone go buy the book, even if you didn't have a baby in the NICU or don't know nothing about the NICU. It's still a great book to read with your kiddo.
Yeah, what a way to open their minds to different types of families and experiences, which I think as moms, it's like one of the main things that we want to do, right? We don't want to shelter our kids so much where they don't know about the real world. And that's what I just love about Waiting for Max. It's just, there are so many different ways that kids come into this world and the emotional impact that it has on all of us. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thanks for coming on.
Me. And thank you again for coming to my story time at Ziggy's.
Of course.
Like that meant so much, like new people coming in. I'm so glad we've connected through that.
Yeah, I know. One of the great ways of social media, right?
Exactly. And go check out Zibby's Bookshop if you're local to LA and Santa Monica. Beautiful woman-owned store. And you can also find Waiting for Max there as well.
Yep.
Okay, Emily, we'll have a good one. Happy Sunday. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Welcome to Little Sprout, a podcast for moms by moms.
We're your hosts, Sarah and Mel.